Minnesota's citizen soldiers serving with the National Guard in Kuwait and Iraq.
We've got a big responsibility.
Local men and women who leave their families
What, honey? How are you?
and their jobs to serve our country.
We have to do it right, and we want to do it right.
They're helping to bring an end to a nearly 9-year war in Iraq. Called to serve in Operation New Dawn. Hello, and thanks for joining us for this 12 News special. I'm Alexandra Renslo.
And I'm Mike Johnson. More than 2,600 Minnesota National Guard soldiers are part of a historic mission right now in the Persian Gulf.
After nearly 9 years of war in Iraq, it's Minnesota's Red Bull soldiers who are leading the effort to safely escort American troops out of Iraq by December 31st. This mission in Kuwait and Iraq involves many local soldiers from the Northwest Metro, all with very different backgrounds. There's Captain Sarah Bear of Maple Grove, now stationed in Kuwait. The 32-year-old mother of 2 young girls is on her first deployment.
Then there's Sergeant Moses Abankase of Brooklyn Park. The 46-year-old Nigerian immigrant is a father of 4 daughters, and he's on his second deployment to the Persian Gulf.
And finally, there's Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Frizzell of Maple Grove. The 48-year-old father of 3 is on his second deployment, and he is on the front lines of this mission. It is Eddie Frizzell and his 94th Cavalry Troop that take convoys in and out of Iraq each week. They're working to see a safe ending to the war. It's go time for this group of Minnesota Guard soldiers in the 94th Cavalry. Loading machine guns onto their vehicles in Kuwait, this troop is preparing for another convoy into Iraq.
These troops are giving everything they got under very stressful conditions.
Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Frizzell of Maple Grove is in charge of this troop. His soldiers stand at the ready in Kuwait for around-the-clock operations that take them in and out of Iraq weekly.
We want to make sure that we have the right equipment at the right time and the right training to deal with those variables that may present themselves at any given time.
In Iraq, Frizzell and his soldiers still face grave danger.
The improvised explosive devices are our major concern, but that is definitely a threat that we face each time we go north.
It's their job to safely escort all supplies and equipment out of Iraq in support of the U.S. military drawdown by the end of the year. As that deadline nears, it's local soldiers like Frizzell, a father and Minneapolis police inspector back home, that are tasked with seeing a safe ending to the Iraq battle that has raged on for nearly 9 years.
We just go for it and keep doing what we do.
While all U.S. troops are scheduled to be out of Iraq by year's end, Minnesota's Red Bull soldiers will still have some work to do in Kuwait. They will not return home to Minnesota until late spring.
The majority of Minnesota National Guard soldiers are at work in Kuwait, and they're responsible for base management and security.
This is a big mission, very, very big mission.
Sergeant Moses Abankase of Brooklyn Park spends his days working at Camp Virginia in Kuwait. It's his job to collect and oversee all the used uniforms from soldiers returning from Iraq. Abankase must make sure no uniform ever ends up in the hands of someone outside the U.S. military.
People are, taking our uniform, coming to our base and doing some havoc, so it's a big control.
While our local soldiers are logging long hours overseas, their families are trying to keep things together here on the home front.
And that's right. For the Bear family in Maple Grove, that job falls to husband Eric Bear, while his wife Sarah serves our country.
Do you want grapes or do you want strawberries?
Inside this Maple Grove home,
You eat your grapes.
we see the other side of deployment.
Are they good?
38-year-old Eric Bear is dad and Mr. Mom right now, while wife Sarah is away.
It's, for the most part, it's going pretty well.
Did you see the decks today?
A lot has changed since we first met the Bear family last April when this couple was preparing for the deployment.
Eric's a really good dad, and we have things set up pretty well at home, so I think we'll have a couple hiccups, but we'll get it figured out real quick and we'll make it work.
Flash forward to today, and Eric's got his hands full with energetic 2-year-old Bryn and 4-year-old Elise. They've already had some adventures.
We went up to Lake of the Woods about a month ago. My parents have a cabin up there.
That fishing trip snagged more than this catch.
We had a deer that decided to hit the side of the truck about 20 miles south of the border, and stayed overnight in International Falls and woke up with pink eye with Bryn.
Life keeps on coming, and it's a juggling act for Eric to keep everything going, with 2 little girls
You being shy.
who miss their mommy.
There she is.
But several times a week, they do see her. Thanks to Skype, they try to keep up on daily life.
Can you tell Mommy what you did at school today?
I can't really hear you.
Technology isn't always perfect.
Can you hear us?
It is enough, though, for a little girl to understand her mom is half a world away.
Now it's nighttime for Mommy, and it's morning for us, and when it's morning for her, it's nighttime for us. So it's different.
With one parent on a mission to serve her country and the other parent on a mission to keep things together at home, this deployment is one of sacrifice.
I love you.
Love you too.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
The Bears will see Sarah in person in February when she comes home for a few days of leave time. Our Guard soldiers have been in the Persian Gulf since July, headquartered at Camp Fajan in Kuwait. Joining us from Kuwait for an update on the mission is Colonel Eric Kurska, the brigade commander. Colonel Kurska, what can you tell us right now about the work that the Red Bulls are doing in the Persian Gulf?
Well, the troops are doing great. We've integrated seamlessly into the operation over here. It's very intense, but we're doing everything that's expected of us. There's been very few surprises. The training paid off. We trained on the right tasks, and things are going very well. Soldiers are safe, and they're doing very well.
What is the biggest threat that's facing soldiers right now, particularly those that are leading the convoys in and out of Iraq? What are the biggest challenges?
Well, I believe strongly as a student of history that complacency is always the biggest threat to any soldier in any war. We work hard to protect our soldiers from themselves. That's kind of my buzz phrase that I use with my leadership. Our job, the junior leader's job, is to make sure the soldiers are doing what they're supposed to what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, and try to keep them from not doing what they're not supposed to do. So complacency is always the biggest threat, Alex.
In October, President Obama made it official, announcing the end of the war in Iraq and the withdrawal, of course, of all U.S. combat troops. What was the reaction to that news overseas and among the troops?
Well, the soldiers, we've been here for a while, and we've got a lot of veterans that have been here multiple times. So we were very happy to hear about the soldiers, happy for the soldiers and their families that will get to go home around the holidays this year. For us, it didn't change anything. We were scheduled to be here through the spring of 12 anyway, so it was good news. We felt good for our brothers and sisters that get to go home a little bit early.
And just in the final seconds here, Colonel Kurska, what's the one message, the bell ringers, so to speak, you want people back home here to know about these citizen soldiers and the job they're doing?
Well, the folks back home need to understand that this is a historic moment. We're leaving Iraq after many years of a hard fight, and the Minnesota soldiers are playing a key role in getting that accomplished and getting everybody home safe and with honor.
Colonel Kurska, thanks so much for your time. Best wishes on the months ahead.
Thank you.
Coming up next, the long road to deployment. It takes months of training to ready for a deployment. A look back at how our local Red Bulls prepared for the mission.
You're watching a special edition of 12 News, Operation New Dawn, Called to Serve. We'll be right back.
Watch your shoulders, watch your shoulders.
Welcome back to this special edition of 12 News. Minnesota's Red Bull soldiers are already months into their work in Kuwait and Iraq.
A lot has happened since that wet, blustery day in May when the soldiers and their families gathered at Fort Snelling to say goodbye. State's top brass joined soldiers and their families on May 22nd for the official deployment ceremony at Fort Snelling. For families, it was a time for final hugs and kisses and also a few photos before saying goodbye to their loved ones. The Frizzell family of Maple Grove sent husband and father Eddie Frizzell off for his second deployment. Wife Janae and her 3 kids have been through this before, but there were still some last-minute jitters about holding down the home front alone.
You want to believe you have all the 1-800 numbers and all the contact information that you need, but there'll always be something that I won't be prepared for. And just hopefully I can count on someone to navigate me through that.
While families need to be ready for deployment, the soldiers also spend months getting ready for the mission.
For Minnesota's Red Bulls, the road to deployment involved countless hours of training for duty overseas. Here's a look at their preparation. Camp Ripley in Little Falls, Minnesota is a key training ground for the Red Bull soldiers. On this day, it's where members of the Red Bulls prove they can hit the mark.
I'm going to qualify on the 9mm range.
Captain Sarah Bear is a Maple Grove mom, but her mission now is to hit 30 targets.
Thank you very much.
There you go, ma'am.
She easily passes the test. It's required, even though she works a desk job in human resources.
Everybody has to be a soldier first. You know, officer, enlisted, you're a soldier first, and you need to know how to use your weapon.
Here,
So let's get your plates on.
soldiers make sure they're physically ready.
Being deployed is very stressful.
But with gunfire echoing all around,
The mental agility is huge.
Sergeant Alan Jorgensen works with soldiers to make sure they're mentally ready for the job and the stress of leaving their families behind.
What we want to do is set them up for success with certain tools and how to manage their energy and you know, how they handle stressful situations, whether it's with their spouse and child or coworker or situational.
Well, we're gonna do the personnel search real quick.
When they arrive at Fort McCoy in western Wisconsin,
We got Sharf over there.
that stress level goes up a notch.
Spread your legs, please.
The training here simulates the kind of threats that could be ahead. They're just a few weeks away from heading to the Persian Gulf, and the training here is as real as it gets.
We want to be prepared for the unexpected.
Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Frizzell of Maple Grove already has his mind on the mission. That's safely getting U.S. troops out of Iraq.
There's not a night that I don't close my eyes that I don't think about all my soldiers and again their families because we have to do it right.
Away from their families, the time at Fort McCoy is all about making adjustments and transitioning to the life of a full-time soldier.
This is my bed.
For Brooklyn Park Sergeant Moses Abonkasi, that means sharing space with 22 other men.
Just from here to here, this is my house.
With just days to go before shipping out to the Persian Gulf, these men and women are now full-time soldiers focused on the mission ahead.
Pray for us, and we'll do the best we can and get back home.
Still ahead, there are many challenges soldiers and their families face both during and after a deployment.
Up next, a look at the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon program and how we all can help when this special edition of 12 News continues.
There is a network of support for military families and service members during and after a deployment.
The program is called Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, and it started right here in Minnesota.
Thank you. Thank you all for your leadership. Thank you for what you're doing.
This past fall, Governor Dayton was on hand as Plymouth became one of the latest cities to earn the Yellow Ribbon distinction. That designation means a city or organization has compiled a network of support services and resources to help soldiers and their families right in their own community.
So we teach communities that we don't want a volunteer group getting together at a church on a Saturday morning filling care packages when down the street we have 3 military families that need help with snow shoveling. We don't want that to happen. So what this program has been able to do is match the needs of our military families with what the community has available to meet those needs.
And joining us now is the man who created the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon program, Minnesota Veterans Affairs Commissioner Larry Shelito. Commissioner, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
I know this program was born out of your own experiences and challenges coming home from Vietnam. How much difference does a program like this make for today's soldiers?
It makes all the difference in the world. I think what was happening is the coming home to a receptive, caring, and open community is absolutely essential. But also, with those that have family, being deployed, knowing that their family is taken care of, takes a lot of pressure off of them. So we're bringing the soldiers home, not to a nation of indifference, but to a nation that cares and has taken care of them and their family.
What are the greatest challenges that our soldiers and this deployment will face when they come home sometime next year? What do you think this group will face?
Well, what they'll face is they'll think they're normal, they think they haven't changed, but what has happened is they've gotten out of their life cycle, if you will, the way they had things planned for at least 18 months, 6 months to train up, the 1 year in country, and they've been exposed to things that they've never really experienced before. So they will come back, and their first goal is to get back to where they left off, not realizing that all their friends and peers and loved ones have moved 18 months down the road. So this concern becomes very happy. So they might feel a sense of apathy or indifference or so forth, because the spouse will have to go back to work, the kids will have to go back to school, and so life has changed, even though they don't want it to.
What should people here know and think about as those soldiers return home in the few seconds that we have left? How can we help as neighbors, as a community?
Well, first of all, thank them for their service, which is pretty much very simple and so forth. But also just visit with them, let them know that you care about them, and help them. If they need a job, help them find a job. If they're going back to school, help them get settled in and so forth. But if they ever want to talk, stop and listen to them. Don't tell them what you did. Listen to them. You can't imagine how important that is.
Commissioner Shelto, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, we'll be right back. So often in life, it's the little things that mean the most.
Janae Frizzell and her 3 kids opened the door to find a welcome surprise. Members of their Maple Grove Crosswinds Church showed up with a care basket filled with goodies. The Frizzells are missing husband and father Eddie right now since he's at work in the Persian Gulf. The generosity and care from their church community meant a lot to Janae, who felt moved to encourage others to reach out this holiday season.
If everyone would just find it in their heart to give to others, just a small amount of service, any gift, any size, whether it's just a thank you, a hello. I'd like to see people at this time of the year really, really think of others.
And as we say goodbye, we are giving the last word to Eddie Frizzell of Maple Grove.
That's as he and our Minnesota National Guard soldiers help bring the war in Iraq to a close.
I would just simply say that as the holidays approach, Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year, enjoy, and we'll be back with you soon.